Hi, let's quickly skip the introduction and see what's up with the Spark Trickster. Spark is a peculiar skill that scales up with projectile speed, skill effect duration, and extra pierce, so that a single spark can bounce around and damage the same enemy multiple times. That's why it performs the best in closed spaces, not in open areas where there is nothing to bounce off of. We'll stay with the original lightning damage. Increasing it with gem level is easy. Reaching a 100% critical strike chance with a high critical strike multiplier is another simple way to gain more damage. There's nothing special there, it's just the peculiarity of the spark that makes the damage. Any class could do that effortlessly, so selecting Trickster seems wise. Go for the polymath for damage with resource recovery, one step ahead for action speed, escape artist to get more evasion and ES, and soul drinker for leech and overleech. It makes for a sturdy character with great recovery. We've included Ralakesh's Impatience combined with Inner Conviction for the powerful charges of all types, the Anathema Ring, and a helmet that will let you cast 4 curses with a press of 1 button, and Mage Blood, because the build is pricey anyway, and this belt may not even be your biggest expense. We recommend the Transfigured Spark of the Nova. It deals much more damage than the original, and the only obstacle it introduces is its high mana cost. But there are tools to mitigate that problem, which we will explain in the next sections, so pay attention. Your main defensive layers are high maximum energy shield, chaos inoculation, evasion rating, and spell suppression chance. You also sport endurance charges, so physical damage is not as big of a problem. Still, try to avoid big hits as they can kill the character if the enemy is particularly strong. Clear speed is very good, but the build works best in close spaces, like tunnels and ledges. Boss damage is also high, especially if the boss arena is small. Good enough for all content in the game, no doubt about that. And here's the catch. The build is expensive. It includes pricey body armor, gloves, wands, a belt, and so on and so forth. The unique items you're looking for are Ralakesh's Impatience, Anathema, and Chevron's Revelation. There are some more, but you can assemble the build without them. Your elemental resistances can be easily capped with a single flask and a Mage Blood, and given the build is expensive anyhow, that's how we recommend solving this issue. You have no easy way to generate charges, but they do grant tons of bonuses. That's why Ralakesh's Impatience boots are so popular. These are especially great with Inner Conviction Keystone. Mage Blood is the best belt in the game, especially in this build, where your rare gear's suffixes are extremely valuable. It's not mandatory, but playing without it seems not right. The Spark version of Replica Dragonfang's Flight Amulet is usually expensive, but the extra levels and reservation efficiency are equally desirable. You have 4 maximum power charges, and with the Anathema Ring, you'll be able to apply 4 curses, which you can cast easily with the right helmet. You don't recharge or regenerate ES, you leech it. Put Chevron's Revelation on your left ring slot to gain tons of maximum ES and mana regeneration with no drawback whatsoever. With Stormshroud Jewel, Mage Blood, and a magic flask with shock avoidance on its suffix, you will always avoid all elemental ailments, just like that. Militant Faith. Get the Dominus variant for Inner Conviction, and as for the minor mods, reduced mana cost of skills and increased effect of auras are your best options. Be sure that none of the notables are conquered. Socket it near Sentinel Notable. The Light of Meaning. Get the Energy Shield version and socket it near Supreme Ego. It's not mandatory, but that's the most ES you can get from a single jewel by a large margin. Socket Unnatural Instinct near Harrier Notable, so that it shares some of its radius with that of Militant Faith. It will boost its devotion mods. If you don't have good devotion mods, switch the places of Militant Fate and the Light of Meaning. You're looking for the Necromantic Aegis version of the Impossible Escape Jewel. That will let you allocate 5 very good notables. These are Foresight, Path of the Savant, Potency of Will, Ash, Frost and Storm, and Dreamer. Watcher's Eye. You're using Wrath, Zealotry, Grace, Discipline, and Level 1 Clarity. Elemental or Lightning Penetration and Extra Crit Multiplier or Crit Chance from Wrath and Zealotry are the best choices damage-wise, but if you struggle with mana, look for the Reduced Mana Cost mod from Clarity's Pool. Your rare gear pieces are very specific, but besides the peculiar mods, seek mostly Energy Shield and Intelligence on them. The main damaging setup should be socketed in rare gloves with 2 built-in support gems. Having 2 wands is also a big damage boost. You don't need the defenses from a shield that much. Prioritize gem level for spark, cast speed, spell lightning damage, elemental penetration, and critical strike chance with critical strike multiplier. Also, make sure your spark has high projectile speed, skill effect duration, and that it pierces enemies. Your defensive layers are spell suppression and evasion rating. On a rare helmet, prioritize the 2 suffixes. One to trigger socketed here spells, 4 curses, on focus, and the other one with reservation efficiency. Then, try to gain as much energy shield as possible. For the Eldritch mods, get more reservation efficiency and increased cast speed. You're using 2 wands because of the extremely valuable essence suffix that increases projectile speed by over 50%, and because shields are not that good. You don't plan on having a high block chance. Gem level for spark, cast speed, spell damage, and critical strike mods are required. Body armor, aim for high evasion and energy shield to benefit from the Escape Artist passive. For suffixes, get spell suppression and attributes. The Eldritch mods should improve the effect of your auras and redirect some of the physical damage to be taken as chaos, which you are immune to. Gloves can be very hard to craft on account of the few very specific mods from both Shaper and Elder, Influences, an Essence, and a Veiled Orb. Socket your spark setup here. ES, Strength, and Resistances are the only mods worth looking for on a belt. Try to get a lot of elemental resistances here. You will have to replace it with a Mage Blood at some point because of the suffix pressure, so before that, just get something that's relatively cheap. A focused amulet from Heist could be extremely good, but these are usually far beyond the reach of a regular player. Instead, focus on critical strike mods and gem level for lightning spells. Be on the lookout for influence mods too, these can be useful. There are a bunch of various crit multiplier mods to be found on rare jewels, and these will get you the most damage. Add to that some maximum energy shield. There are enough points left for 2 8 passive large cluster jewels. Increased spell damage and increased lightning damage jewels have both notables you're interested in. You can fit in 1 unique flask. Bottled Faith increases your crit chance, damage, and grants the boons inherent to consecrated ground. Use it only during boss fights. We'd also recommend bismuth, diamond, silver, and quicksilver, or jade flasks. Their suffixes should increase your elemental resistances, critical strike chance, evasion rating, and chance to avoid being shocked. Spark of the Nova is a spark skill that's slightly better than the regular spark, but costs more mana and has lower cast speed. It deals lightning damage with projectiles. Link it with inspiration, spell echo, and energy leech. Faster projectiles and faster casting support gems should be here too, baked into the rare gloves, making it a 6-link with major local boons on top of that. Tornado hinders enemies and deals damage to them. Spark can interact with it to boost its damage. Keep it at level 1. Wave of Conviction, keep it at level 1 too. It should inflict lightning exposure on hit. Immortal Call reduces elemental and physical damage taken. It can stay at level 3. Link these spells with level 1 cast when damage taken. It triggers spells after taking a wee bit of damage. Your cast speed is already very good, so using the Wintry Blast version of Frostblink is recommended. Link it with faster casting and low-level Arcane Surge. Arcane Surge grants mana regeneration and cast speed. Use Wrath for more spell lightning damage, use Grace for more and increased evasion rating. Zealotry grants more spell damage and increased critical strike chance for spells. Discipline is here for an additional maximum energy shield and increased ES recharge rate. Keep Clarity at level 1 if you have a specific mod on a Watcher's Eye that reduces the mana cost of skills. It's hard to sustain the mana drain otherwise, but if you don't have the jewel, don't bother. Link these with level 4 Enlighten to fit in all these auras. Frost Shield drains your ES to make it protect you from incoming damage. Enemies outside of the dome deal even less damage to your character. Sigil of Power adds lightning damage to spells as you spend mana while inside the sigil. Link these spells to the more duration support so that they last longer. The next 4 curses are socketed in a trigger on focus helmet. Sniper's Mark. Marked enemy receives increased projectile damage. Projectiles split on impact with the target. Punishment. Enemies that are on low life receive increased damage. Conductivity reduces lightning resistance. Elemental weakness reduces all elemental resistances. Kill all the bandits in Act 2 to get a point from Eramir. If you plan to take on pinnacle bosses, choose Solaris. If you plan to run maps, choose Lunaris. Other major gods are not useful, given you have a 100% chance to avoid being frozen, and your recovery is stupidly high. Now for the minor god, you have choices other than the default Abarath, which protects you from burning ground, and that's a big plus if there's nothing to leech off of. Tukahama and Ugul can be good if you cultivate their virtues. On the passive skill tree, you will find skill effect duration, pierce, projectile speed, mana reservation, effective auras, energy shield, evasion rating, lightning damage, critical strike nodes, some spell suppression, and leech. Your keystones are Chaos Inoculation, Ghost Dance, Ghost Reaver, and Mage Bane that gets transformed into Inner Conviction. Get Leech Mastery for 10% instant leech, Projectile Mastery for 15% more projectile speed, Mana Mastery for 12% reservation efficiency, Duration Mastery for 10% more duration, Critical Mastery for 25% critical strike multiplier, Reservation Mastery for 8% increased damage per aura, and another one for 10% increased effect of auras, Energy Shield Mastery for 100% increased ES from the helmet, Evasion and ES Mastery for increased evasion per intelligence instead of dexterity, and Spell Suppression Mastery for lucky spell suppression. Now you should be ready to assemble the build by yourself. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Sparkle on. Don't forget to be yourself.